Hello, listeners. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Whatever time you may be joining us from, we are so excited you are joining us here today. This is our very first Lead to Include podcast, and it's where we are bringing a bunch of research assistants to the table to talk about what they've been doing for the Lead to Include organization, their research, and it's also just a very special episode as we have some of our MITACS interns joining us. You'll get to learn a little bit more about what MITACS is and some of our students' experiences in Canada for the first time. But without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Sider and get the podcast started. Thanks for listening and stay tuned for more.
So my name is Steve Sider. I'm the principal investigator on what we affectionately call the Lead to Include team. Lead to Include is a compilation of different research projects across Canada and a few that are international, all of which focus on inclusion, school leadership, and students with disabilities. So I think this is a great opportunity for the various research interns, research assistants, to give a little bit of a sense of what actually happens with that big idea of Lead to Include. So maybe I'll just say really quickly, we're a number of different kind of representatives or different roles here. So you're going to learn a little bit more about MITACS today, which a number of our research assistants are part of. And then there's a variety of other research projects all under that umbrella of Lead to Include. So yeah, say thank you and welcome.
So we're going to keep things pretty informal. You can go around the room if everybody wants to introduce themselves. Tell us a little bit about yourself in about 30 seconds.
So my name is Sammy Charles. I am from Haiti. I graduated university recently. I have a medical degree, so I'm a physician. So I'm working this summer with Dr. Sider and all the team about different projects.
And one project particularly that you're focusing on is around disability and inclusion in Haiti, right? So, which has been great to have you here, Sammy.
My name's Zach Flaming. I'm a teacher candidate in the primary junior stream at Laurier University in Waterloo, Canada. And some things I love to do. I love spending times outdoors, as I'm spending the summer here in beautiful British Columbia and Vancouver, and spend the winters in KW, spending my time studying to be a teacher, loving it.
Hi everyone, my name is Alya. I'm born and brought up in Hong Kong, and I'm currently going into my 5th year of my double degree in science and education at the University of Hong Kong. I have a lot of different interests, both within and outside my majors, such as biological sciences, dance, art, activism, and these have made me who I am today, so it's been fun.
My name's Brianna Sampo. I'm from Illinois in the U.S. I'm going into my 4th year of my undergraduate program as a psychology major. I also minor in communication studies and clinical and counseling, and I've been doing research for several years, and I'm super excited to be here in Canada to continue research and exploring the country.
Down to the last few days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. I got a couple adventures in yesterday.
Ooh.
Down to the Grand River.
Oh, that sounds intriguing. We should also maybe say that 2 of our research assistants are online today. So Zach's here, even though, British Columbia, not jealous at all, Zach. We keep saying that. And Alya's here with us as well online. So
This one's more for Alya and Brianna, but what is the MITACS program?
The MITACS program is a Global Link research project. So it's interns from all over. I'm from the States, Alya from Hong Kong. There's other people from Mexico, Colombia, Germany, and there's just, I think, 13 different countries. And so you come to Canada for 10 to 12 weeks and you work on different research projects. Anywhere in Canada, there's a lot of different faculty that are involved in it, and then you work on a research project with different objectives that you establish beforehand. Alya, is there anything you'd like to add to the program?
I think it's a really cool program that fully funds students from all over the world to be working closely with a professor in Canada, and it's been a really cool experience so far. I was very drawn to it for the experience, and also because you get to be a part of something so meaningful and expand your knowledge and skills in the field and be able to solidify if research is for you. And gain even more experiences and be trained through a research team.
Now, did you get to choose which research team you were a part of, or was that assigned to you? How did that work?
They had they were like, no one else would work with Dr. Sider, so Alya and Brianna were sending you to Waterloo, Ontario.
Yeah, we had to all take dibs. So we get to choose our top 7 professors, and according to their research teams, and like how interesting their research projects are to you, and if you feel it's a good fit. And I think so do the professors. They pick their top 7 students based on interviews they conduct, and MITACS just helps link the student with the professor.
Yeah, so it was interesting from my perspective, Alya, because you were part of the first round of MITACS interns, and I might have gotten a list of 30 or thereabouts, I think it would have been, who indicated interest in working in the team here. And then I interviewed 5, 6, 7, including yourself. You were my number 1 pick. How's that feel? Yeah, it was great. And then there was a second round, and Brianna, that's when I became aware of you. Again, same thing, a number of interviews with a number of different candidates, and you were my number 1 pick too. So I was very fortunate because I got matched with the 2 candidates that were the ones that I had hoped to be matched with. So I should also say that Bree, who's with us, and you, Emma, just maybe it'd be good for both of you to take a moment to introduce yourselves. Because now we have a little bit of a sense of MITACS, and it's been great to have that kind of international flavor with the team here. But there's also other Canadians beyond our Haitian friends and our British Columbia friends. Bree, why don't you, I'm going to jump in to moderate because now it's Emma's turn to introduce herself. Bree, why don't you start, and then Emma.
Sounds good. Yeah, my name's Bree. Just like Zach, I'm also a teacher candidate here at Wilfrid Laurier University. I did my undergrad here in English and geography and decided that I wanted to become a teacher, which my teachers told me I would, and I was very adamant I would not, but here we are. And yeah, I've loved working with the team this summer. I've kind of been like the middleman, which is my favorite thing to do, is like organizing and kind of hanging out and meeting new people. And I love that I get to be here today and hang out with you all and listen to your experiences in Canada, because I feel like sometimes we take that for granted. Like, I forget that poutine isn't a thing everywhere. So like, I'm so excited to hear what your favorite Canadian experiences are and see if there's anything I need to try that I haven't.
I'm Emma. I'm an undergraduate student here at Laurier. I first met Dr. Sider in my second year. He was one of my professors, and then I reached out to him because at the end of every lecture he always posted job postings. So I reached out to him to see if he had any that he was willing to share, and then he brought up this opportunity, which I quickly jumped at, and I've been on the team for almost 3 years now.
That's right.
I think.
Wow.
Yeah, so
You're old.
I know.
I'm not, but yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool, really, when you think about like the really diverse people, first of all, who are part of the team, but also the diverse backgrounds and ways you became engaged with the project. And it's interesting, Alya and Brianna probably have the 2 university preparations that are probably the closest to the work that I do, right? In inclusion, because both of you have backgrounds in research and psychology and so forth. But the rest of you are, very diverse, but you bring certain skills that are amazing. And Emma, your work as kind of the social media website manager over the last, almost coming up on 3 years has been fantastic. And I think this is maybe as a sidebar comment, one of the things that as a faculty member, as a professor, is really a rich experience for me is that I get to have students like Zach and Bree and Emma who have been in classes with me, or I've seen in hallways or had conversations with, and I see your skills, and they're really incredible. And it's just, oh, that's amazing. And then to meet, and Sammy I've known for years, probably longer than all of you, and I know what he's capable of, but then to meet new interns like Alya and Brianna, and just to see the skills that people bring from all over the world is pretty remarkable. So it's definitely a global team family. A very functional blended family.
Yeah.
So this one, anybody can kind of answer, but what made you apply to the team?
It was clearly for Alya and Brianna, it was clearly the high pay, right? That's what brought you here. Because MITACS that's another interesting thing about MITACS is that I don't pay you, but this is because it's a federal government project. They provide you with a stipend and help with apartments and so on and so forth. But it clearly wasn't the pay.
Yeah, no, I've never been out of the U.S., and so I knew I didn't want to stay home all summer. I wanted to adventure out and to be able to do something related to my field of study and just kind of advancing my career. So Canada was a perfect fit. It was very close to home, still feels like home sometimes, which has been super nice, but also different in the cultural experiences through people. And so I just, wanted to expand my worldview and do some research.
I was initially introduced to inclusive education through university courses and be able to bridge that connection to work I'm doing with an organization I founded called Our Peace, and we work with refugees, students with cancer and physical disabilities all around the world. And even though I gained a lot of research experience, I was really eager to throw myself into an opportunity where I could really get to practice and learn even more about how research works. And yeah, it's just something that I was generally interested in, and I felt like it was a great fit.
Yeah, so for me, I was looking for something to do for the summer after COVID because I haven't been outside of Haiti for like 3 years. And then I felt like I need a break from from everything that was happening. And then I knew about the summer project. And since in Haiti, so we Asian university don't have a culture of research, not because they don't want to, but I think that it's because of lack of resources. So you have the theoretical materials, but never have the chance to apply them. So I said that would be a good start for me. I'll just come here and learn, and yeah, that's fun. Yeah.
What about you, Zach?
For me, I reached out to Steve actually a couple months before I started my schooling, just because I knew about his other organization, the Educator and Leadership Institute, ELI, and I was hoping to actually head over across into maybe Haiti or Nepal or Egypt, and get engaged with his organization there. Unfortunately, because of COVID, everything went online, but then I had a great experience in his class, so I figured, hey, why not talk to him about what I can still do with ELI, and here I am today.
And Zach, just to add on to that, although it's not really focused on Lead to Include, part of the work you and Sammy have been doing at the Educator and Leadership Institute is certainly taking some of those things that you're learning in your teacher education program and providing an opportunity for others in different parts of the world to learn about them, including around special education and inclusion. So it all kind of fits together in a way, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's gotten me to be able to explore a lot of new areas of study that I've never really thought about getting into, and it's learning a lot. It's just a great experience.
So everybody had meaningful reasons as to why they applied, but mine was just because I enjoyed Dr. Sider's lectures.
Oh,
So
that's a good
That's
reason.
not meaningful at all.
I was like, no matter what, I don't even know what an RA is, but I'm going to apply because I want to work with Dr. Sider.
Oh, that's cool.
That was mine.
Yeah.
This is more for our international students, but what is your favorite Canadian experience so far?
I can start. I think it's been camping. I've been going to the Great Lakes and just being out in nature, and Canada's just so beautiful. But you mentioned poutine earlier. I think my top thing has been the beaver tails at Canada's Wonderland. So it was just wrapped up this beautiful Canadian time. So roller coasters and sugar was exactly how I like spending my summer.
I love that. There's just been so many, it's so hard to choose. A few tops would be getting drenched on a cruise at the Niagara Falls and flying a plane over the Niagara Falls with a childhood classmate, dancing at the Pride Parade, and being a housemaid, as well as a lot of Cuban salsa socials.
So for me, it's you when you are outside of Canada, you hear how diverse this country is. But when you think about it, you think about the biggest cities. So this is my fourth time in Canada, and that's the time that I have the chance to see how diverse Waterloo is. And I've done this through trying different restaurants. So been trying like over 10 different restaurants. So I just go in and they say that's Middle East food and that's Irish food. So that's very fun thing to do. So yeah.
What's your favorite one so far that you've been to?
I think it's shawarma.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're going to get into a little more of like an academic focus now. If everyone wants to talk about like where in the project you're working this summer and what made you decide to get into research.
My focus is psychology, and so when I first kind of heard about the projects, I was very interested in the inclusive part of including students with special education needs. But what I've been most drawn to, I think, is a leadership piece. So what I've been most involved in is this research around recently retired Canadian school principals. And so I was able to participate in interviewing them on their experiences and then coding the transcripts and then writing up now a manuscript about kind of our findings. And like that has been the most amazing piece ever. Like to actually hear the personal experiences and to like really dive into what it means has been so impactful for me personally, because like I think it just relates to my own life. And so it's been super amazing doing that project.
I love the fact that it feels very like kind of natural to you, right? And it's because it's connected probably in some ways to your own school experiences, and you get to see from a different perspective what a leader, a principal, a teacher, whatever it might be, is how they view the school. Whereas when you're a child or a young person, you have your own kind of lens that you're looking at that school experience. So it's very cool to me that you're able to see it now from kind of a different angle. Alya, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. So I was lucky enough to be able to dip my toe into a number of projects under the Lead to Include research team. But the projects that I've worked most closely on this summer was one where, like Brianna mentioned, we investigated the experiences of recently retired school administrators. So again, being involved in interviewing them, transcribing, coding. We're also getting started on writing 2 manuscripts and as well as an innovative avenue of knowledge mobilization through a video or digital story format.
Love that. And again, this I'm gonna keep jumping in because I can't stop. But Alya, when I hear you say that, and I've said this in kind of some of our meetings, one of those outputs, that digital storytelling, whatever it's going to look like, was not an output I was anticipating, right? When we signed up for this 6 months or so ago, that was not what I was expecting at all. But that's from a professor perspective, from a researcher perspective, that's one of the benefits of having a diverse research team, because, and we were part of a meeting, Sammy, last week when we were talking about organizations in Haiti, and you provided some input. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. I hadn't thought of it from that perspective, but that organization in Port-au-Prince, that would be a logical partner. So for me as a researcher, different kinds of outputs, different kinds of interests, different perspectives makes the research I do better. So that's a benefit for me. So it's not just benefiting you as future researchers, as current researchers, but also as future researchers, but certainly it benefits me as the person who's supposed to be driving the research as well. What do the rest of you think? Sammy, what are your thoughts on the question?
So as I told you that so we I did it. I wasn't even sure what I was going to do coming here. So, but starting working on the different project, especially about inclusive education in AD, inclusion at all. Mm-hmm. So that was very interesting, like learning from the team about coding or stuff like that. So that was very, very useful.
Yep, good. Yep. Zach, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, there was actually a couple of projects that I've worked on. I started off creating a document for all you MITACS students, actually. I don't know if you know that Bree and I created that document, so I hope you learned some stuff about Kitchener-Waterloo and the surrounding areas. If you have any other hidden gems that you've discovered, I'd love to know some so I can add some on for our listeners here who might be watching or reading it over. And also I've been working on my bigger project. I've been working closely with Dr. Sider's open courses that he partnered with D2L, Desire to Learn. where he has a whole bunch of different open courses for teachers and other educators all across the world. It's great. There's some sections on leadership, some sections on special education, some math, and science and tech. So that's been an awesome opportunity to be able to explore these courses and get them up to par to where he wants them to be, so to be available for everyone. Steve doesn't want to touch on that one, no.
Well, before Bree goes, I will say that's a great reminder, first of all, as far as kind of that introduction to the Kitchener-Waterloo area, and that was a huge help to me, Zach, because again, you and Bree have a different perspective on what kinds of things you would want to do in KW, right? Like if it was me, I'd say, well, yeah, what would you want to do in Kitchener-Waterloo? Well, there's the Waterloo Public Library, there's the Laurier Library, there's the Kitchener Library, which are great options, but maybe not all the things that you would want to do. So again, that's awesome. And the second project, the bigger project that you're working on, which thanks for doing a little brand promotion there for Desire to Learn. That was very subtle of you, Zach. That's a great way for you and Sammy on the English language side and the French language side to work together, and also for me to be aware of the kinds of things you're doing. It's good. It's been great. So Bree, does that give you enough time to think about what you've enjoyed or what you've been working on?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one thing that I've really enjoyed doing is kind of seeing what everyone else does, if that makes sense. Taking more of a leadership role on the team when it comes to the admin side has been really great because I've gotten to know each one of you individually more. So that's obviously been awesome. And then also just like coordinating our HQP workshops was something that I really enjoyed doing. We just had one with the Laurier Writing Services. So Dr. Ada Sharp and Dr. Elliot Worsfold came in and kind of, they all added on to each other, right? So every HQP we've been doing create a larger picture in the future. So this writing workshop talked about how we were taking what you guys were coding and putting that into a research report. So it was really cool to see those happen each week. And even Emma, you came in, did yours on knowledge mobilization. So all these great research findings that you've all been doing, we now know how to put it out in the world in a professional manner, but also an aesthetic manner. So I think I've really liked seeing the growth beyond everyone. And then once you leave, sadly, I'm excited to pick up and continue by working with Dr. Sider throughout the year and hopefully adding on to all your great findings. And I'm excited to read them all and hopefully edit them. So that's awesome.
And we need every research team needs a Bree. Right? Every research team needs someone who keeps things kind of like structured and organized and problem solving and making sure, that the social end, but also on things like HQP. But what does HQP stand for? You just threw that out there. Like,
you're really testing me. I was gonna pretend like I knew, and I was like, I'll just say the acronym. So I think, and someone might have to correct me, it's highly qualified program or personnel.
Personnel.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
You were close, Zach. You were close. Because I think of it as like PD days, like professional development days in teaching. Like this is something I'll be doing. So it's like the equivalent of a PD day if there's any teachers listening. HQP. There we go. Once a week.
Perfect. And that's been huge, right? This provides kind of an ongoing opportunity for professional growth, professional knowledge. Probably some things are things you knew before, and other things are like, oh, that just solidifies something that I heard before, I knew about, or maybe that's brand new information. So it's supposed to increase that. If you think of like your research abilities, like an onion or some piece of fruit or whatever, the idea that you're growing, and each of those rings is going to add to your knowledge and to your skills, so that when you do your master's or PhD, or when you get a job at a company, you can speak to, I've got these transferable skills that I built as a researcher that will also be pertinent to being a teacher, being a medical doctor, being a person who works for a tech company, whatever it might be.
So the next is, what has been a key learning experience or an aha moment in your research this summer?
Yeah, I think my biggest aha moment or key learning experience that I've really appreciated is our weekly meetings that we have. Living somewhere that is like 7,000 kilometers away from everyone else, it's quite difficult. We've joked about many times hopping on a plane and joining some of these HQP meetings or something, but unfortunately I haven't been able to do that. And as someone who has very limited experience doing some research, it's been a great opportunity to be able to actually meet with the team weekly online through Zoom or Teams, whatever we decide that week, and being able to actually have a great kind of connection that I've felt that was, which is difficult to have when you never actually get to meet everyone else in person. When I know everyone else is meeting people in person, I feel a little bit connected in that way, and hearing what everyone else is doing, and that's been a great experience for the summer.
I'm going to just tag on to that. I'm now doing this more than I should. But Zach, that the idea there is so for those who are listening, we do a Tuesday night check-in, right? So 7:00 on Tuesday nights, we jump on for half an hour, 45 minutes. And part of my goal there is to bring everyone kind of, just a quick update. What are you working on? What are you doing? But it's also just to build a little bit of a sense of team and a community, right? So those tend to be focused on a question, helps me get to know you a little bit. Questions that usually have nothing to do with our research projects, but the idea is just to build a little bit of camaraderie, a little bit of community with the team, and then to find out a little bit about what we're doing. And I appreciate you mentioned that, Zach, because I've not tried that before with other summer research projects. This is the first year where we've done a kind of like a weekly check-in with the full team. So I will note that as something to keep doing.
I'd love to tag on that because that has been maybe also very meaningful to me because just the way you lead the group has been so incredible. This whole leadership experience of discovering the experiences of school administrators, but also how you're leading the research team is really hits home because I'm a leader back at my home university. And I just want to build this sense of community, and I think it's so important to have that team feel, the togetherness, the community, because you're not going to produce good results if you don't feel like you belong in a place and it's actually impactful and meaningful, and what you have to say matters. And I feel you take the time for every single individual to have their response and a feedback for them too. It's let me tag on that. I love the fact that it's you're acknowledging that we're all here. And it's so important. I feel that's been a big moment for me is everyone has a voice and it is heard in spaces where you find acceptance.
I feel that's also why people keep coming back too, right? Just hearing what you and Alya and Jaron and everyone has been doing about their interviews with school principals and retired principals who really do not have to come out and be a part of this research, but it's that community across the education world or the research field is that everyone is so willing to help each other and they're willing to take the time out, even though they may not be getting paid for it, they may not be getting a stipend, but they're still here because that community is so strong. So like you said, I feel if there's no community, there's really no basis to the research because you may not have people willing to come out and share their time and their experiences with you. So I agree with both of you.
So, I know Steve for 9 years, so I know you, Zach, and Bree, I know exactly what you're talking about. So, my key learning experience, there's nothing to do with you.
Oh, that's good. Please go on.
So that was just to come here and to do something that is out of my field of study. So living in Haiti and you have everything in your head and coming here, looking for what are the legal policies about inclusive education in Haiti and see all this stuff that are written down, but nothing is doing to make them a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just one example of many of things that I've discovered just working on these projects, to see these gaps between what is said and what is done. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was it.
I'm going to tag on to that because I can't stop. That gap between policy and practice is very evident in Haiti. It's also happens here in the United States, happens in Hong Kong, happens in every country, but the gap sometimes is smaller or it's hidden more. So I think that's an important thing for us all to recognize, that there's policies in Ontario around inclusion, as an example, but there's still lots of examples of schools or school settings that are segregated. So we still have a policy practice gap here. So I want to make sure that we don't have everything figured out here in Ontario, and even the interviews with the principals has demonstrated that, right? You've heard from principals who've talked about situations, critical incidents that they've experienced where it's not been perfect, and even sometimes what their beliefs are and what they think is the right thing, what happens sometimes is different just because of the realities of the context and lack of resources and, you know, challenges with families or whatever it might be. So it's interesting you saying that, Sam. I mean, we've had this conversation lots, but that gap is definitely much more evident in Haiti. It's a much bigger gap, but we still have a long way to go here in Ontario as well.
Tagging back to what you guys previously mentioned, I have really enjoyed our weekly meetings as well, especially anticipating what the week's random question might be. And Sammy, your point was really important as well. When I think of an aha moment, one specific one definitely stands out to me. A few weeks ago, a couple of the RAs were assigned with coding certain numbers of transcripts and identifying emerging themes. So we all got together one morning and started sharing our findings. Steve was taking notes of our themes on the whiteboard and categorizing them, which then expanded to cover all 3 whiteboards. And there was just this big, convoluted mess of ideas. And from that, we were able to identify some prominent themes in literature as well as outliers, and then visually format it into this preliminary framework as a starting point of our work in grounded theory. And it was just like, wow, we did that. And like this collaborative process was just so unforgettable and one that I was so grateful to have been a part of.
The reason all 3 whiteboards were covered is because my writing is super messy, though, Alya. Let's be honest, right? I'm glad that you and Brianna and Jaron and Sammy were able to make sense of all that. And I think that, again, a good learning experience out of that was that research can point to certain themes, but always look for the outliers. Look for the things that are interesting, because sometimes the things that are common are important, but not necessarily interesting. So I loved the fact that you both came away, Brianna and Alya both came away from that exercise with ideas of really interesting and creative ways to go. And I think that's really rich.
Our kind of final wrap-up question here is, what will you remember about your RA experience, either research or overall experience on the team?
I'll just hop onto that because I have to leave right after I answer this question. Yeah, some things that I really have kind of got me to remember the RA experience is just kind of seeing what the behind the scenes of a professor does and what a educator does on their online platforms, and how they manage a team to be able to create their research or pull off their research. It's really interesting. As someone who's done quite a few years of university, I always see the profs and I see them in front of the class, but I know that like that's only 40% of their work. Most of their work is research. So it's just really interesting to see and get involved with the back end of being a professor. Very cool.
I'm not saying anything this time, Zach. I'm just going to be quiet.
I guess I said everything.
For me, it would be the team, like this team. The fact that everyone is supporting each other. Like when we have to do something, Brianna will jump and ask if you need for help for something. The fact that we have been all supporting each other, I think at this point, if Dr. Sider is satisfied about the work that we've been doing, it's because of this collaborative part of each other.
I think in life in general, sometimes we can forget certain specifics of information over time, but like that feeling is never forgotten. So I'm certain that I'm going to remember that feeling of being so supportive in a team, just like what you mentioned, Sammy, and like working together on navigating new experiences. And whether that's here on a research team or even new experiences here in Canada, navigating those with your housemates has been so incredibly impactful for me. And so many transferable experiences for my work back home. Like I'm a research assistant at the Center of Enhancement of Teaching and Learning, and I've just founded a special interest group. So just a lot of transferable skills. I'm also getting started on my dissertation, which is going to be based on a project that I'm directing this September. So yeah, a lot of things that I'm really lucky to be able to take home with me.
Yeah, I think tying it back to the research a bit is I feel like I just got to practice a lot of my skills, but I've gained so many. It's been really interesting to see how in a different country things are very similar, but also slightly different. Like the organization and kind of just the setup, I've got to practice some things and also learn just like how to work better with the team, because the research I've done in the past was a little more individual, or it wasn't as much like the feedback. It was like you write a thing, your professor deletes all of it and then writes it themselves, and I'm like, what do I do? You know. But here I feel like it's more of the team. It's more of like my kind of voice and opinion is equal, which has been really interesting. Like, I feel like a grown-up now. It's so weird. I feel like my undergrad experience has been like you just put all the work in, and then it's like, I don't know, it doesn't really matter. Whereas I feel like here, like, it matters, and like what I have to do, like, is actually important. And so, like, it's really nice to actually feel like I think I'm gonna go home and be like, what I say is cool, and like, please listen. Like, I have some experience and I feel credible now. Mm-hmm. So it's really nice to like know how to find like the backup for what I have to say, like with the literature reviews, and just like now I know.
Just wait until you have your own research book one day. Yeah, then you'll have your name on the book. You'll have to frame it, and then you'll think back to this summer. When Alya was talking about like how she felt, there's a favorite quote that I have, and I've had it hung on my wall in undergrad, and it's, they may not remember what you said or did, but you'll always remember how they made you feel. And that's what that reminded me of, Alya. I don't know if you know that quote, but that's so true when it comes to this team, that regardless, or even just like research in general, I feel like it's super rewarding. So yeah, just wanted to add that quote in there.
Wouldn't it be ironic and very sad if you were on a team lead to include research team and it didn't feel very inclusive? Yeah. That would be the epitome of irony right there, right? And very sad. So I'm glad to hear all your comments, and certainly feel, you know, it's partly what we all do as leaders, right? You help set the table. But if you set the table and no one comes to the table, or everyone comes to the table but they don't want to engage with the other people at the table, you can set the table, but no one respects or appreciates that, right? So it's always so important to have groups of people. The leader can do certain things, but to have everyone who comes to the table fully participate and engage with that. And I've certainly sensed that from all of you this past summer, even from a distance. Zach, you've gone out. I think you've gone out of your way to engage with us, to be part of these meetings, this podcast. I think that sends a message, and that sets the tone for the kinds of research. And I think you do better research when you feel safe and you feel like you are valued, and the work that you're going to do is going to make a difference. You're going to be a better teacher in situations like that, right? It's just natural. So it's a good lesson for all of us just to remember when you're in positions where you are working with other people, whether that's a club or a special interest group or your own lab at some point in the future. How do you set the table so that people have all the tools to the greatest degree possible that will help them be successful, and that there will be a sense of connectedness, community there? How do you feel, Emma? You've been moderating this really nice podcast, but yeah, what are you going to remember from this summer and from the last couple of years of your work with the project?
I think it's pretty similar to everybody else. Coming into the team, I was in my second year of university, and I'm coming onto a team with professors, graduate students, so it was pretty intimidating, but you did a great job of making me feel so welcome and important, I guess. Like, I felt like maybe I didn't have as much as others to bring to the table, but what I was bringing to the table was still important on the knowledge mobilization side of things. So I think that's probably why I've stuck around so long, is because it just feels so nice to be a part of the team and working with everybody. And the team has changed a little bit, but it still has that same feel to it. So Dr. Sider does a good job of making everybody feel welcome in that sense of community. So
do we start wrapping things up now? Yeah. Now that we've had all the nice things said?
Yeah, that could be the title of the podcast. Dr. Sider is blank. And then you have to listen to find out. It's like the clickbait. Yeah. Everybody watch. Figure out what we said.
One of the things I'd like to say before we start wrapping up is there's been a silent partner in this whole little podcast here today, and that person's name is Caitlin Leese, and Caitlin has been helping us to navigate that. So Caitlin, we know you're here. You can't hide behind the big screen that you're at right now. But do you want to add anything, Caitlin? And just to say, this is also a good opportunity for us to do a little plug for the Center for Leading Research and Education, which Caitlin is the research associate for. What are your thoughts, Caitlin, as you've listened to all of this?
Yeah, I think that as someone who benefited from being a research assistant during my undergraduate studies and graduate studies, I think, it would have been even more beneficial to have more of that team atmosphere to really, feel like you're part of something greater. A lot of the work that I did was independent, but I think the strength in a project like this is that it is a coming together of different minds, different backgrounds. So yeah, it's really powerful what you've put together, Steve.
Thanks, Caitlin. And maybe what I'll do is start wrapping up, Emma, if that's okay. Yeah. And just to say, really appreciate all of you. Brianna, you're the first one to leave, right, in a couple of days. But I feel that you and Alya, you leave in a few weeks, that when you return to your respective communities, your respective universities, I have a feeling that our work is not going to be done. And we have a couple of manuscripts underway that you both have been instrumental in. I know Sammy, when he goes back to Haiti, will be continuing to be engaged with the project and with other things that we're doing. And unfortunately for Zach and Bree and Emma, you three are stuck with me at least for one more year, because you all are potentially in your last year of studies at Laurier. So that's but look forward to continuing to work with you. And I think that sense of a research project doesn't typically have a discrete beginning and a discrete end. It's much more cyclical, and there's new ideas that come up. And so, Zach, you're a good example where you were engaged with one part of this project under a different kind of program, and now we're on to another aspect, right? And that might lead to another aspect. And Bree, you started with another part of this project, and now you're kind of managing things and coordinating things. So I think that's a beautiful picture of how research evolves and morphs. And to any of my colleagues, to any other faculty members who are listening to this, I would just encourage you, as you think about whether it's MITACS interns or your undergraduate or graduate students at your university, trying to provide opportunities for students to be part of a project like this is beneficial, obviously, to you as a faculty member, but also is part of that setting the table, hoping that some of the things you do are going to be of benefit to others in whatever careers they choose. So thanks to each one of you for being part of the team this summer. We're going to go to a Blue Jays game tomorrow. So sorry, Caitlin, we're going to a Blue Jays game tomorrow, and that's a nice way for us to kind of celebrate. We've got more work to be done, but this as we approach the end, nice way to celebrate a really successful summer working out of the Lead to Include research group here at Laurier.